Hello, this is the Eversync tutorial video for adding a physical client to the virtual backup software. We've got our browser open and we are connected to our virtual backup software. This is indeed a virtual machine, my Eversync Virtual Backup VM, running here in my VMware vSphere environment. We are going to go through the process of adding my laptop as a client to be included in the backups. I can get my client into this list a number of ways. I can right-click anywhere on any row of data and choose the New option. I could also get that same New option through the Actions menu. If you're installed in an Active Directory environment, you can join your appliance to Active Directory and be presented with a list of clients, or rather a list of all of the servers in the environment, and you can select those out of the list to help you populate this field. For this example, I'll just go through the manual process here. We're given this new client wizard and asked to provide just a few pieces of information. I give the client a name, a description, and select the operating system. Once I click on OK, I am immediately brought to this client's edit screen where I can view various details about this client as it appears so far. Right away there are a few things that we can see that we can modify or edit. So let's go through and address those. My addressing is really not, the name laptop will really not resolve to my address, so I need to type in the appropriate IP address. You could also use a host name if DNS was enabled, and you could resolve that. I'm going to select a schedule to follow. Each appliance or each software solution comes preloaded with a handful of schedules that can be selected. As an example of one of those schedules, my weekly schedule will run a full backup each weekend and then a differential and or an incremental backup throughout the weekdays. These can be customized however you see fit. You can simply go to the Schedules tab and either create your own new schedule or just see how the schedules are defined. The next important section to discuss is our file set. A schedule does a couple of things for us. It tells us when we're going to run the job. It also defines what level of backup would be performed. The next item to look at is our file set. This is where we define what data to be included in the backups. Each new client will be created with its own custom file set. By default, a Windows server would simply back up the C drive, but this can be edited or customized. Let's say, for example, I want to back up my users directory. Or let's pretend this is a huge file server and I have multiple directories that I need to get backed up. I can simply type in new entries and those would all be included in the backups. We can also create an exclusions list. When I click on the New button, I get a matcher set, and if I toggle over to exclude, you can see that we use wildcard characters or regular expressions to help us define the file set, and we can be as granular and as specific as you need to. As a very simple example, I'll choose to exclude MP3 music files. So as the backup is running and it's traversing through these structures, it will ignore anything that matches this file ending. I'll click on OK to save that. And in here, I'll show some of the modifications available. We use VSS, or Volume Shadow Copy Services, to capture open files. We can also enable a system state backup. We can also enable a live BMR backup. That stands for bare metal recovery. Basically, the idea is we can capture all of the needed OS components along with the various directories and drives that we're backing up. And should there be a hard drive crash or system failure, I would be able to restore the image of the old drive onto that new bare metal of that replacement drive. I'm going to click on OK. We'll come back in here. I will not go into great detail on the majority of this content. Very basically, I can toggle on or off deduplication or the replication. Let's say you had a pair of devices. You can choose which clients to replicate and which to not. If you needed to have the system retry a job for any reason, there are some recovery options in here. If you needed to kick off any sort of a special script or a command before or after the backup runs, you can do so in this section. We also have a wake on LAN feature. So if you need to send out that wake up packet, we can do that as well. On the right, I have my job recycling section. I'll discuss this a little bit. This is basically a way to set your retention period. You can customize this to whatever you need it to be. Basically, this works like setting an expiration date for the jobs. In my example here, if I were to run a backup today of my laptop, and if that were a full job, then that full backup would live on the storage space for 6 months. At the end of that 6-month period, the software would be allowed to purge that job in order to free up that space and make room for future jobs. You can see as I've been editing, we've made several different changes, and those are highlighted by the little deltas out here. We're going to click on Apply to save those changes, and you'll notice at the top right of the screen I have an Activate Configuration button. This is sort of the process of implementing all of those changes that I've just made. If I come back to my client's summary, now again I see my client in the list. I see the address and the schedule, so we see that we've saved our modifications. But the one thing you'll notice is I'm not communicating between my laptop and my backup software. So the next step on a physical machine is to download and install the appropriate software client. We come to the Software tab and choose the appropriate agent. In this case, Windows. I'm a 64-bit OS. I'm going to just open up the file that we downloaded, and we'll go ahead and run that. This opens up the Eversync install wizard. We'll click our way through here. There are a couple of agreements to accept. At this point, we will install just the default components if necessary. If this were an Exchange or a SQL server, I might have options to install some additional plugins. But in my case, I'll click on Next, and we'll go ahead and install. This process generally takes about a minute or so to complete, sometimes a little less. There we go. We see that we've successfully installed and we're all complete. There's an option here to run the Eversync agent configuration on exit. I do want to run that, so we'll click on Finish. Now, if my client and appliance were part of an Active Directory, I could simply do a lookup to download the appropriate configuration information. But in this case, I'm going to go through the process manually so you can see what's required. So we're running our wizard here. Again, there's an automatic option to go out where the agent will find the appliance or any appliances that it encounters in your network environment or information. And I said I'll do it manually, so let's just type in my information here. Oops, I got that backwards. We'll type in the right information. My appliance address is 172.16.11.5, and we see that right there in my browser. The appliance password, in this case, my appliance password is still the default setting, which is RVXD2D2D. If you've changed that, then of course you would plug in the appropriate password. And now my client name, laptop, does a little check, finds the configuration file, downloads it for me, and now we've saved that locally to my laptop. I'll click on Done, and that window will often skip away or hide. So you want to just pull that right back up. What we did was to download a configuration file which synchronizes the agent and my appliance so that the two can communicate. Let's take a look at some of the other tabs in here. We have a service control tab. Under here we see that our agent runs as a service. Generally we are running as the local system account. However, there is an option you could stop that service and run us as some other account, such as an administrative type of account. We also have a Tools tab. For the most part, this is not used. This is mostly used by the support or the engineering staff to help us collect a little bit of information if we need to do any kind of troubleshooting. We're going to go ahead and click on OK. And I don't know if you've been watching my status back here, but it's changed a little bit. Since I just barely got that agent installed, let me click on a refresh. In just a moment here, we should expect that my status will switch over to the green check, indicating good communication. And there we go. We do a refresh, and I'm able to communicate. Now I've got my green check indicating I'm communicating between my laptop and my backup software. So at this point I could choose to kick off a manual backup, or I can just sit back and let my schedule take care of that. Tonight, even though it might be scheduled to run an incremental backup, it will in fact run a full backup if no previous backups exist. That's it for this video. I hope that's been helpful. Thank you very much.